Hello everybody, I'm Mike, CTO and co-founder at Colstack, and before we move to our React Native Show podcast, I have a quick announcement to say that might be something that is interesting to you. Today I'm looking for the best React Native developers to join my team. Besides working on high-end software used by millions, we also contribute to open source projects such as React Native Paper, React Native Testing Library, or Repack. And so you will have an opportunity to develop your skills and knowledge within these projects, as well as move your own ideas into life by taking part in our R&D program. We are a great team full of React Native crazy people about this technology, and we can't wait to share our knowledge and experience with you. And so if this sounds like something exciting, don't wait anymore and join us. It's great to be part of such a team. Check out the link below and apply, and I'm hoping to see you soon in our Colstack office or maybe remotely depending on your location. Bye-bye.
Hello everybody, my name is Mike and I'm CTO at Colstack and your host at React Native Show. Today, the topic of today's podcast is a desktop development with React Native. Before we start, let me welcome our guest, Bartosz Klonowski, that works with me at Colstack and has been working on React Native Windows for over a year now. And Bartosz, before we go to the topic of our podcast, how about we just start with a few words about yourself?
Yeah, sure. So, hello everybody. So I am Bartosz Klonowski, and during all these years, I've been working on many topics. I've been working with many technologies, to be honest, but the GUI and the desktop, especially desktop, has always been something that I was really passionate about, so to say. So while I was working on many things, I always try to develop my skills with the GUI, with all the technologies related to the desktop development. So finally, I'm here at Colstack, trying to experiment a bit, developing all the things related to the desktop.
Yeah, and thank you for that, and that's really amazing. I have to say that when we were looking for somebody to kind of start this React Native Windows initiative at Colstack, what was really exciting for me when I saw your application was that there was actually somebody who was really passionate about user interfaces and React Native and experimenting in that area, which is something very unusual and very, very appreciated. So that's amazing. Now the topic of today's podcast is obviously, as you may have figured, React Native Windows, which is React Native for essentially desktop development. And this may sound a bit exotic at the first glance because React Native is for iOS and Android mobile apps, and JavaScript for desktop development. Somebody could say, why should I do it rather than going the traditional native way, which is C++ or C# way? So why should we even think about React Native Windows in terms of desktop development?
If you look at it, if you look how the JavaScript developed during these years, you will see that it's not as exotic as it appears to be, because JavaScript. Well, when I started to learn some JavaScript, it was years ago, and I was writing some PHP web application, and I used JavaScript to launch the small script through the HTML page that was about to filter out some options from the list, and that was the JavaScript was at these years used to develop some small simple scripts, and right now it is used to develop not the simple scripts but the whole web page, whole websites, games, mobiles. And right now it's not that surprising that it expanded to the desktop applications. Well, if you look at other languages, they also try to do the same. There are some examples. Python is such example, but it's the JavaScript that succeeded about it. So it's not that much surprising as it can be. Well, like any other languages, JavaScript has its advantages, like dynamic types, abstraction, syntax, and many other, of course. Some of these can also be considered as a disadvantage. Depends on how you look at it. Yeah, but the main point is that using JavaScript or more TypeScript allows you to focus more on the UI or on developing some components that will be visible out there on your application, instead of architecting the codes layer by layer just to achieve enough abstraction to be able to connect it to your view safely. Yeah, let me compare it to some experiences of mine, because previously, when I was working on some plugins to the tools that we were using in the company, in the previous company that I worked for, I used the WPF framework, and I was developing this plugin, this so to say, it was kind of like another desktop application. I use MVVM pattern, and the thing is that before I started to even developing the view, I had to develop all the layers, all the things that they were necessary, the models, the view models, and finally I was able to develop the view. But currently I am working with React Native, which allows me to do like, okay, I will write one component and I will just display it. I will just render it, and it's simple. It doesn't require to do any more like magic under the hood, to be honest. So it's not that surprising that JavaScript is used to develop the desktop application.
Yeah, and I have to say that when you gave this example at the beginning with how you started your journey with JavaScript, that got me wondering whether we should start like a special meetup group for people that started with PHP and had to kind of embed a very small JS snippet, because that's also how I kind of interacted with it, from jQuery, through more advanced patterns. Then I ended up with Angular, and that's how it was kind of evolving on my end as well. So I have to say that I can definitely relate to that kind of background. So back to the desktop applications. Like you said, it may seem super crazy at the beginning, but when you start thinking about it, it's something that makes a lot of sense. And actually, when you look at the desktop development scene, there's already Electron, which has been out there for quite some time, which is right now, I guess, the most popular alternative or option available if you want to use JavaScript for desktop development. It is also what, for example, Visual Studio Code has been built on top of, and I guess others as well, such as Atom from GitHub, if anybody remembers this editor. It may be actually quite popular right now, so I'm not sure if saying if anybody remembers was a good call for this one, but there was such a development as well in the past. So I guess my question is, how does React Native Windows compare against Electron? Because I guess this is the main alternative, and other frameworks, if there are any, on the market right now.
Electron and React Native both share the same environment, so to say, but Electron utilizes the similar idea to, like, I would say, web development in general, because you create a view and just a logic behind it, and that is great. Because you don't have to bother yourself with anything else, right? But what if you do? What if you need to utilize some DLLs? What if you would like to utilize some native layout and native look just to get closer to a system that your app is launched on? What if you would like to access the API of your OS? Will it still be possible with the Electron? If yes, how easy will it be? Do you have the environment for it? And React Native, to be honest, answers all those questions, because if we look at the JavaScript once again, trends were changing. Even on embedded, we had the bare metal development. We still have some for some crucial systems. But now we have, for example, the Raspberry Pi with Node.js development. And it may look crazy as well, because why would you use the JavaScript for embedded systems? But that seems to be okay, because right now we can make a choice. We can develop some JavaScript application, but we also remember that under the hood that there is a bare metal application which kind of expose the API that you are using. You're using it above, when you are developing the JavaScript code. And the same idea is with the React Native Windows and Electron, because if you think about your project, if you think about all the layers that you will have and the purpose of your application, you will see that there is a huge, so to say, difference between Electron and React Native Windows, because React Native Windows allows you to make a choice whether or not you will tackle with the native layer that is under the hood of the React Native Windows framework.
Yeah, and I guess, like you said, it's all about the options. And when you were giving this description and comparison, it came to my mind that it's like choosing between React Native or PWAs kind of for mobile development. If you look at React Native Windows and Electron, and I don't know why, just came to my mind that, like, when I was starting desktop development, when I was about to write my native app, when I was about to do mobile application first, everybody said, go do it natively because iOS is fun, and so on and so on. So I was kind of confused whether to go with React Native at first. But when I was about to do native desktop application, everybody said, don't even go Windows way. It's like super messy and very hard. So I guess I kind of faced this general impression that desktop development itself is kind of tricky. So I guess having JavaScript layer might help with the accessibility of that.
Yeah, I think the same.
Yeah, so I'm happy that you are now kind of going towards React Native way. That is probably a bit easier than your previous experience in terms of like the development itself. But since React Native Windows is kind of early stage, I guess there are still some hiccups, but we'll get to that later anyways. So like I said, I guess just to wrap up, because we kind of off topic for a bit, the main difference between React Native Windows and Electron, like you said, is that React Native sort of utilizes the native layouts, controls, and as a result, you probably get closer to the native look and feel, and you kind of get a native looking platform. Now, I guess how close we can get going that way to an application that would be done entirely in a native technology. And I'm talking about things like when you build mobile app with React Native, somebody can say, oh, your navigation doesn't look native, your animations are off, and things like that. So my question is, how far from fully native experience we are going React Native way?
The native development it will so to say is now easier when it comes to utilizing the native features, the native layouts. If you are creating the application using the native frameworks, all the controls, all the features are like out of the box. With the React Native Windows, there are only the core features and controls out there available currently. But with the React Native Windows, you will utilize the core features and controls, like I said, but it's almost the same set of controls which are already available with the React Native for mobile, almost, because when Microsoft implemented the React Native Windows, they created some native controls that are Windows only, but the plan is to export to third-party libraries, so to say, and community modules. This is where the difference is when it comes to the native and the React Native Windows comparison, because some controls which are native for Windows are available only as modules, libraries delivered by the community. The good thing is that the Microsoft team is doing their best to ensure they are supported, but still, this is a third-party module, and it's not like out of the box, and there is no guarantee that it will work always correctly, and that it will always be maintained. So just like with the React Native for mobile, the fact is that many libraries and the set of controls is so distributed across many libraries, repos, packages, that you should consider that when you are writing with native, you will always have everything available, while when writing with the React Native Windows, you will have to consider downloading some package, utilizing something that is not out of the box, but you have to search a bit, and this is so to say a little drawback of React Native Windows, because either you will develop it yourself by writing some C++ or C# code, or you will try to use something that is, let's say, external.
Yeah. So I guess what you are saying is that the number of built-in controls to Windows SDK specifically is just so huge that only a subset is supported within the React Native Windows core, and the rest is either third party or you just kind of do it yourself kind of stuff.
Yes, exactly. That's what I was saying.
Yeah. I guess, and we have discussed this with Microsoft one day. Like the big problem here is ensuring that React Native Windows maintains. Like it's kind of tricky because React Native Windows has to be API compatible with React Native on one hand, which is mobile and has totally different components. Exactly. And on the second hand, there's like a whole bunch of different Windows components that we gotta support. So fun stuff. Anyway, you have already you have briefly mentioned this in your answer when you said that when component is not available, you gotta build it yourself by writing a bit of native code. So I guess my question is how you could describe React Native Windows development workflow to somebody who's been doing Electron, for example. I guess while they might be the same on a UI level in terms of building JavaScript, building interface with JavaScript, there might be things that are different, like maybe setting up some native projects or what. Just like, what are the differences if I'm, let's say, Electron developer and I would be kind of looking into React Native Windows, what I'm signing up for?
Well, we have to remember that the idea behind React Native Windows is to make it perhaps, like you said, almost the same as React Native when it comes to tools, environment, feel, and language. So we have a Node.js and NPM and the JavaScript or TypeScript, some unit test frameworks, and generally that's it. So they are quite similar to each other. But while working with React Native Windows, your main focus should be on the JavaScript side, not native. This is what React Native is for, to handle the native side for you. But it gives you the possibility to do it on your own. Sometimes you have to do it if you want to do something unusual or you would like to handle some native functionality of your app. And this is the main difference and the main concern that should be described to the Electron developer, the native side. Because when working with React Native, I launch Visual Code like the Electron developer does, and this is where I can develop React Native components and debug the JavaScript code. I can import other modules just like in the Electron, and I can use them. But comparing to Electron, using React Native Windows, I can also open Visual Studio and check the code and check the native implementation of my app and debug it as well. I can easily create my own modules or my own UI components with which I can export to JavaScript. I can even modify the original way my app is rendered on the native side, and of course, if I know how to do it. So the main difference is that there is a native side. So when using React Native, it is very useful too, but not necessary. It's very useful to develop some native code.
Yeah, and so it looks like for somebody who's been doing Electron, it kind of feels like with Electron, you definitely need less experience or awareness of the underlying ecosystem. It's more like you're just writing JavaScript and you don't have to mess around with Visual Studio or kind of C++ code unless absolutely necessary, I guess. And that's definitely the downside of React Native in general, at least at a first touch. But I feel like for the developer coming from traditional Windows development like you, this should feel like home.
Well, It should.
Or not?
Yeah, because the thing is that. Well, my answer would be that not really, because when you are when I first started with the React Native, I was like, okay, there is a native site, I can do almost anything with it, so I will still develop some React Native app, and but I will do it my way, so I will use the native for it. But this is so to say very bad idea and can lead you almost to the disaster, because React Native Windows is like React Native. JavaScript is what you should focus on. And the thing is that the more native you are writing within your React Native Windows application, the less cross-platform it becomes. So you should, so to say, reduce the amount of the native approach to a minimum if you are writing the React Native Windows application. Your skills of native development can help you with developing some nice fancy stuff within your React Native Windows app, but it is not something that should give you let's say comfort zone, so to say.
Yeah. Thank you for that explanation. And while we are at it, we kind of reached to a conclusion that Electron developers, so JavaScript developers, will face some confusion at first when they have to deal with native stuff. And native developers, on the other hand, will also need to kind of adjust their thinking and kind of the way they are reasoning about the development as well. So what would be the ideal set of skills to make React Native Windows development a breeze? If native developers are not 100% ready and JS developers 100% ready, then who are these amazing people in the world that are, like pros and experts with React Native Windows development?
Yeah, I guess it can be quite confusing about the tech stack that should be used here. But it's quite simple, to be honest, because what is mostly required is that the developer is already familiar with Node.js or NPM environment. He should be able to install a module, should be able to or should know how to handle all the dependencies, how to solve some problems with it. Of course, JavaScript. Or TypeScript, to be honest, because C++ and C# are statically typed, strongly typed. JavaScript, from that perspective, is like another world. So if you know some JavaScript or you already have created some web script or written some components, then you are good to go. And of course, the native side, because the native side is something that can, like I said previously, can help you with developing some nice stuff around, can help you to debug something, and can help you to look under the hood of your application and perhaps work on some optimization, on some performance issues, something like that. And well, last but not least, C++. Though you can create your React Native Windows app with C#, that there is some possibilities. Of course, is the C++ language that is used for native modules or third-party libraries development for obvious reasons, unfortunately. So in case of something is not working well, or there is need to modify something on the native side, you should be good at C++, because most of libraries of tools that you will be using, whether third party or your own, will be written in the C++ language.
Yeah, and just out of curiosity, because you said that the C++ is used instead of C# for obvious reasons. Like, what are these? Like, just side topic, because it always struck me that C# seems to be like Python 3, like the new cool kid on the block, and still I see C++ being used everywhere. It's not like on iOS where everybody goes Swift and Objective-C is now like the legacy thing. But here seems to be that C++ is immortal. So, like, what's up with this?
Yeah, I said that the reason is quite obvious. The thing is that if you check the documentation written by Microsoft, they mention the compatibility of these two languages used for the native modules development. And the thing is that if you write the code with the C++, it will definitely work within the C# library. And the thing is that on the other hand, when you are writing the C# library, it will not work if your app is written in the C++. So everyone is writing the code with the C++ to ensure that whether you are downloading or so to say utilize this library, no matter if in the C# app or the C++ app, it will work. So that is the reason.
Yeah, thank you. And I have to say that C++ scares me a bit because I had it at my university a few years ago. Like the main language, like in Poland, there is either university that uses Java and a university that uses C++ as a primary language, and there's nothing else, maybe except for Python in a few cases. Anyway, we had the C++ classes, and I remember the first time I stumbled upon, those like pointer counting and keeping refs. And I was like, coming from JavaScript world, I was like, what is going on here, and my first question was, how do I remember to clean up after myself? And I just couldn't imagine how is this possible. But after doing this for a few weeks, it turned out to be a bit easier than I initially thought. So yeah, C++, crazy stuff. But this is what I love about React Native. There is never boring time. If you are tired with JS, just go C++ way, and
yeah, but the thing is that right now in the C++ we have a smart pointers and all the fancy stuff that handle the memory management for us. So all we have to remember now is some tricky stuff around the smart pointers, whether or not you should be using one or another, and the syntax instead of how to handle your memory issues.
I guess either I was at the university many years ago, or we were not
sure.
using the latest, so they wanted to teach us the basics, like, hey, don't use this because it's not the primary feature, which could be the truth. Okay. C++ is a topic for another podcast, maybe, with some Arduino stuff as well, but let's go back to the React Native Windows. So I think we now have a pretty good understanding of how React Native Windows works, and in case you still have some questions in your head around React Native Windows, then please follow us on Twitter, ColdStack.io, and ask your questions about anything that comes to your mind as far as React Native Windows, and we will try to answer them. And that ends up the small advertisement block, and we are back to the podcast, so it's not over yet. So now that we know how it works, the question that I wanted to ask was, how can I get started with it? What's the first step?
Well, it's. I have to say that it's very well described in the React Native Windows documentation because it's kind of like step by step, just like when you are starting with the React Native itself. But Microsoft also developed a PowerShell script that will install all the required tools for you. So even that is already handled out there. So. But briefly, to start, it's just like with the React Native. So all you do is the React Native init command for the command line interface, and generally that's it. But as a small addition, all you have to do is like initialize the React Native Windows project. So it's like one additional command comparing to the React Native. So to say, startup.
Yeah, nice. I am really happy to see that the getting started experience is quite easy. Like I'm working on the CLI from time to time when I have time, and there is always every once in a while a PR from Microsoft team about adding something they need for the Windows. So I'm accepting these PRs, I'm helping them move forward, but I never have the opportunity to actually check how this is used in production. So from your experience and description, it sounds like the work they are doing and the PRs that we are sending are actually working out nicely. And that's amazing. So Using React Native Windows, I guess, for desktop development sounds like a no-brainer, and I guess everybody will agree that it's just easier to do it cross-platform way rather than starting natively. So let's say there are also people listening to us that are working at businesses that have already native applications. And does it make sense for them to migrate to React Native Windows? And if yes, under what circumstances that actually makes sense?
Well, many apps already created as a websites, web apps have their desktop implementations as well. Like the GitHub, for example, or Slack, or all the apps that we know and that we are using. So if you are creating your app and starting to or starting to develop a product, you most likely will consider cross-platform solutions. One user will complain if there is no mobile version, or other, like me, for example, prefer to use desktop version over the web version. I'm using Windows OS, some other will prefer Mac OS, some other will use Linux. And this is what we call cross-platform. And this is also something that that React Native Windows helps you, and React Native, of course, helps you to solve. Well, you should take into consideration other platforms. If you won't do it right, you will end up with several different teams writing separate apps for mobile, desktop, web, and that they will have to spend their time communicating the layout compatibility issues, and that sounds insane. So you will try to find something that will allow you to write the majority of your code once and reuse it on all those platforms and devices that you want to support. And the React Native and the React Native Windows helps you to do that, to be honest. And the velocity of the development, well, it's kind of like it's better because you are writing it once, like I said, and you can support all the layouts, all the features that are required on your app, and you can be sure that they will be supported on all the platforms that you will be using.
Yeah, so summing it up, it feels like when you have a React Native, when you have a native application on Windows, it may make sense to migrate if you either plan to roll out new platforms and just do it all at once, or maybe you have existing apps and you want to port some features, or you just want to save your time, which is the velocity, as you said at the end. Is that am I getting this right, or is there anything else that you wanted to mention?
All options that you listed are the ones that should be considered when you want to migrate to cross-platform solution using the React Native, and yeah, that's all, I guess.
Okay, cool. So I guess I'm sold, and I hope the people that are listening are also sold. In that case, we are happy that we have convinced you. So I guess the last question is a bit of a follow-up to the previous one, and it's about the migration. Let's say I want to migrate to React Native Windows, and I have a meeting with my manager tomorrow, or a co-founder, and I need to sell it. How would a migration look like? Do we need to stop everything for the time of the rewrite? What's the best practice here if we want to roll out React Native Windows into our app?
Well, I don't know if I already mentioned it, but React Native Windows app stands on the UWP application under the hood. There is a XAML page holding the reference to the React Native component, and that is what you can use to extend your application with the content implemented using React Native. So in the end, you have several options when it comes to either migration or even implementing everything from scratch. So you don't have to to stop your business. You don't have to do anything crazy like that. All you have to do is to just or extend it using the XAML features that will allow you to host another components, another layout, another features using the React Native Windows implemented using the JavaScript code. And if you want to migrate by writing everything from scratch, then you should be able to do it by utilizing some XAML skills. If you have layout in XAML, you can definitely reuse it in your React Native Windows application. And in my opinion, React Native Windows is just perfect for a brownfield case. It's perfect as a brownfield example because it definitely it allows you to do like to utilize the layer that is already implemented and just create another layer that will use all the things that are already implemented, so you don't have to you don't have to get rid of all the work that is already done.
Yeah, and I came up to I came up to exactly the same conclusion when you said the layout stuff. It's actually truly unique that React Native Windows can reuse the XAML definitions of the layout that your native app already has. So it's like it's not a revolution but an evolution. It reuses the native platform, embraces it, and that is perfect, like you said, for the brownfield cases. So if you are wondering about doing it, it's the time to do it right now. So I guess that brings us to the end, and the impression that I have is that developing apps with JavaScript, desktop apps with JavaScript, is a really great way to target new devices and offer your customers something new, something unique, which is a first-class experience on their favorite platform. And at the same time, it doesn't necessarily mean acquiring new talents since it's already there. Of course, the developers need to train a bit on the native side of things. But if you already have Windows native app, I assume you have people from both camps, so you can just match them together and everybody happy. So at the end of the day, they can all work on the same platform. So I guess the conclusion from this podcast is that whether you go with Electron or React Native Windows that we have talked today about and that we recommend, of course, for obvious reasons, it's great to have these options today. Whether you need something quick or whether you care about performance or whether you care about being UX compliant without compromises. I guess that brings us to the end. I said it already 3 times, and I love extending those last final words. Bartosz, thank you very much for this very inspiring discussion and joining me today on the podcast, and most importantly for all the effort that you have done in the previous months in the open source. You can check out Bartosz's work on his GitHub and some issues that he have created on React Native Windows. And I wish you best of luck on the further development in that area, and looking forward to some desktop applications that you hopefully gonna make in the nearest future.
Hope so. Thank you. Thank you again.
Thank you very much once again, and thank you everybody for staying with us for 30 minutes. And don't forget to subscribe to us on whatever platform you are interacting. And depending on that, also check out the other platforms. We are on Twitter, we are on Spotify, YouTube. On YouTube, we are actually with the video. So if you are listening, then you can also go for the video part as well. TLDR, we are everywhere. So just make sure you subscribe everywhere. Thank you very much once again, and see you next time. Bye-bye.